Hi guys, welcome back again to Dinner Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. So again, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in and for viewing the show. Today we're going to be making some tomatoes, but we're going to make a soup out of it. So we're going to be making some roasted tomato soup with some grilled cheese sandwich. And to make the soup, it's very simple ingredients that you have at home. Again, I'm keeping it simple so that you guys feel the urge to try it out. So I'm going to be using some tomatoes. And the two types of tomatoes that I have here, don't be alarmed. This is just the same tomato as this tomato, but all I've done is just pre-chopped this tomato. So we have tomatoes here. We've got some onions, we've got some cheese. The cheese is for the bread. I'll show you how we'll go about that. Then here we've got our spices. For the spices, I'm using some cayenne pepper. You could use some chili pepper if you want. I'm using some black pepper. I'm using some margarine. You could use butter. I'm using some cream, some tomato paste, some salt, some oregano, and some thyme. You could change this up and decide to use basil or basil and rosemary. So just make it your own. Then I've got some garlic as well, and my fresh tomatoes, my parsley, as well as my oils, and of course my bread. So to begin with, we're going to start by roasting our tomatoes. But before that, we're going to go on a short little break so that when you guys come back, we're going to get started. So thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in a short little break. Bye. Hi guys, if you're just tuning in, thanks for coming back. We are making some roasted tomato soup with some grilled cheese cheddar sandwich, and I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. So like I've mentioned, we're making some tomato soup, and for the soup, I'm going to start off by cutting my tomatoes. And all I'm going to do with the tomatoes is just cut off the eye. This is the eye, and place it aside, and then cut this into half. Place this into half as well. So I'm just going to repeat this process. In the meantime, actually, I'd like to heat our pan. So we're going to heat our pan. I'm going to place this on the side. Okay, so we're back again to cutting the eye of the tomato. And tomato soup is something that's very simple that you can make at home. Again, you can use whatever ingredients you have on hand for your spicing and seasoning. Of course, I've mentioned we're going to be using some oregano and some thyme leaves. But if you didn't have that, you could definitely use some basil leaves or some rosemary leaves. So just try and make your dish your own. I'm drizzling some olive oil, and I'm using light olive oil. You could definitely use the regular olive oil. The difference between light and olive oil, if you're not sure, is that the light olive oil is just a little bit lighter in smell and taste as compared to the regular olive oil. So I'm swirling my pan just so that the oil can spread all around. And then from this stage, I'm going to season our tomatoes with some salt and some pepper. And I'm seasoning it generously. Salt and pepper. If you wanted to add something else, you could, but at this stage, that's all I'm using. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and place this side down. And you're going to hear the sizzle. And what I'm looking for the tomatoes to do is get a bit of a char, so a bit of like a char, a black color. But they're not going to be fully burnt. It's just like a small char to give it the roasted sort of taste and smell. Of course, if you've got an oven, you could always put your tomatoes in the oven, but I want to do this a little bit quickly so that you guys at home don't have to feel the urge that if you don't have an oven, you can't do it at home. So that's why I'm using the pan to show you how simple it is with the pan. And then I'm going to swirl this around and move this. Then on this side, we're going to season it. Again, salt and pepper. Now, I don't know how you guys like to have your tomatoes at home. But I always like mine seasoned generously because tomatoes are a bit bland in taste. Yes, they've got their own natural sweetness, but they always like to be over seasoned or seasoned generously with your salt at least. And again, like I've mentioned, the pepper is optional. You can use some chili if you wanted. I'm just keeping it simple. Always remember, it's very essential to keep washing your hands when you're in the kitchen, which I always do. So we're going to do that. And then wait for our tomatoes to just brown. Like I've said, I'm looking for the char color on the other side. So once that happens, I'm going to turn them. I'm going to have a look. Use some tongs. Okay, so that one is not yet. So I'm going to give it some more time on the other side because I can see the color I'm looking for has not yet come. In the meantime, I'm going to start off by frying our tomatoes. So we're just going to go ahead and put on our heat here. Okay, so we're going to go and put on our heat. And we're going to saute our onions as we wait for our tomatoes to char a little bit. Again, check on your tomatoes. You don't forget them. Yes, this is the color we're looking for. So once you see that, it's time to flip them. And what this is going to do is going to give your tomato soup a nice char roasted sort of flavor. So if you don't want to do this step, by all means, you can skip it. And then again, I'm going to add a bit of oil into the pan, into the tomatoes. And of course, a bit of oil into the other pan where we are about to saute our onions. My onions are already pre-cut, so they're just cut into nice dices. So I'm going to throw them into the pan and swirl this around. Okay. Now it's time to get my wooden ladle and then just mix this up. Now, tomato soup is something that's very healthy for you. So it's absolutely something you could try at home. Of course, you could try other soups if you wanted to make your own soup. You could try making some spinach soup, a carrot soup, but I'm just keeping it simple with what we regularly have here in Kenya. It's easy for you frying tomatoes, so this is something you can easily do at home. So like I've mentioned, I'm looking to get the nice charred color. And as this is sauteing, I'm going to go ahead and now start cutting my garlic. Now, if you don't like garlic, you could definitely just skip this part, but I love garlic, so I'm going to be generous with it. So about 4 cloves. And this is like a preference taste, like I'm saying. Again, this is a tip. If you use your knife to bash the garlic, it's very easy for you to peel it. But you have to make sure you have a strong knife, because otherwise if you use like a flimsy knife, then you might find your handle falling off. And we don't want that, do we? No, I don't think so. So I'm just going to remove the peels. And I'm keeping an eye on my food because I don't want it to burn as much as I'm looking for a charred color. Back again here. Swirl it. Okay, so this is good enough for me. I'm going to set it aside. So what you find here is that your tomatoes are nicely bruised. You can see that. We've got this nice bruised color. So it's the char. And then we're going to stir again our onions. So I'm going to reduce the heat here because I no longer need it. And then just place this back there as I let that cook slowly. In the meantime, we're going to chop our garlic. So you could definitely chop your garlic beforehand. I'm just doing this so that I can show you guys at home. Again, this is very simple food that you can easily do. And if your skills are not as fast as mine, just go at your own level. As long as you get the job done, that's all that matters. Okay, so once you're done chopping your garlic, then you can add it. Like I said, I love garlic, so I'm being very liberal with it, meaning I'm putting a lot of it. If you don't like garlic, then put less of it. So we're going to stir this. Add a bit more of oil. You always have to look at your food and see what's happening. So I feel like I need to add a bit of oil there. So I'm going to add a bit of oil. And then I'm going to now throw in my tomatoes in here. And let this cook slowly. We're going to add some liquid here as well. So for your garlic, again, just ensure that you're getting it to the fragrant aroma. And you don't want it to burn, because once it burns, it's going to have this bitter taste to it. And I'm not after that today. I just want it to be nice and aromatic. So once you can smell it, yes. And there's something about the smell of garlic. It puts you at ease. Of course, again, like I've said, there's some of you who don't like garlic, so you don't have to use it if you don't want to. So I'm going to go ahead and add my charred tomatoes into my mixture. This is a mixture of onions and garlic. So just throw that in there. Then we're going to stir this. So we're going to stir this generously. Then make sure your heat is low. So like I've said, the charring is going to give your soup this nice, rich, charred taste. And I'm going to add now my fresh tomatoes. Like I mentioned, this was just to show it was a regular tomato. I had this left over and I didn't want to waste anything. So you can always just add those to your soup. So that would be the option if you do want to char your tomatoes like I've done. And then now I'm going to season this. And the spices that I'm using, if you're just coming in, we're using some oregano. A teaspoon of that, and some thyme leaves. Again, a teaspoon of that. So I'm going to add my liquids now. And so for the liquid, I'm just using regular water here. But of course, if you wanted to, you could use like a beef cube, some stock. But I'm just keeping it all the way vegetarian because I'm making a tomato soup and I want it to be vegetarian. Don't worry if your kitchen gets a bit smoky like it tends to get here. It's always expected. So add your water and then stir this. And it's going to start bubbling. So I'm going to check the seasoning on that. Remember, I haven't seasoned the water in there. We've only seasoned the tomatoes and I've added water. So anytime you add a liquid, it's always good to season. So I'm going to season a bit, but I'm going to come and taste the soup a little bit later. So that is just to begin with. And a bit of pepper, just a little bit. But if you love pepper as much as I do, you can always add it on later. And then more stirring, of course. And this is already aromatic. So I wish you guys could smell this. Now, if soup isn't something you're used to taking, it's something probably you should try taking because it's good for you, especially if maybe you can't eat very hard foods. So if you're like older or you have like a tooth problem, so if you're having soup, it's really good because you don't have to chew it. It's just going to go down your digestion system. So it's very light on your belly as well. So that's something to consider. If you're having like a bad stomach as well, if you had something like soup, it's going to be really light on your stomach and it's not going to really unsettle you that much. As well as if you're cooking for someone who's older and they can't chew food, the elderly perhaps, soup is again a good alternative. If perhaps you're trying to lose weight, then soup is a good alternative. If you're eating it for dinner because you don't want to eat very heavy, dense carbs, then soup is a good alternative. So for the soup, we're going to be making some grilled cheese sandwich. Again, this is like an option. You don't have to make the sandwich, but I'm taking it a little bit extra. Other than just having your soup plain or having it with just regular bread and nothing done to it, I'm taking it a level notch higher, and I'm going to be grilling our bread with some cheese stuffed into it. Yes, it's going to be all delicious and gooey and melty, so all those good things. So I just want to check on my soup a bit more. So this is going on. So while that is going on, we're going to go on a small short commercial break so that when you guys come back, we're going to start off on our cheese sandwich, and then of course we're going to blend the soup so that you guys can see how we're going about making the soup, the very simple soup, tomato soup like I mentioned, with our grilled cheese sandwich. So I'll see you guys right after the break. Hi guys, welcome back to Dinner Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. Today we're making some roasted tomato soup with some grilled cheese sandwich. Before we went on the break, I put the soup to continue. And for right now, I'm going to start with the grilled cheese sandwich. For the soup, I'm going to actually add a teaspoon of tomato paste, a heaped teaspoon of tomato paste. My soup has been cooking for about 20 minutes now, and that's the time you want it to cook for. So I'm just going to stir this, and then a tip for at home, if you're trying to balance out the acidity of the tomatoes as well, you want to add some little bit of sugar. The sugar adds some sweetness, but you don't have to, but it's just a tip for you. If you ever taste your soup or your tomatoes and they're a bit acidic, just add a bit of sugar and it will counterbalance that out. So for that, I'm going to add a teaspoon of sugar, the same spoon. So just a little goes a long way because I don't want it too sweet again. And if you're just joining us for the tomato soup, what I did, I roasted my tomato soup and then I sauteed some onions and garlic, then added my roasted tomatoes as well as some spices. And the spices I used were some dry leaves, which were not rosemary, but you could use rosemary at home. I used some thyme leaves as well as some oregano. So I'm going to let that just gently simmer so that it can infuse and come together with the tomato paste and the sugar that I've just added. And then in the meantime, we're going to move to our bread. So for the bread, I'm making a grilled cheese sandwich. And to start off with, I'm going to put very little oil in my pan, so not too much. And you want to make sure that your pan is completely dry. And so for that, I'm getting my kitchen paper towel. And I'm just going to heat up my pan, just so it starts to heat up very gently. So I'm going to put on, sorry, this is always giving me a problem, but it always happens. Okay, there we go. So as that is heating up, I'm going to start off with my bread. And in the pan, I'm going to use just a little bit of oil, very little, like that much. Then I'm going to spread that oil out with a kitchen paper towel, just so that it will be even once I add my bread. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So I'm spreading out the oil so it doesn't look like there's oil at the moment, right? So what I'm going to do is add my margarine. Of course, you could use butter, but I'm just using margarine because that's what I have. So just spread this on your bread. There's no neat way to do this, so whichever way you do it will do. And so I'm going to add my cheese in here. And for the cheese, you want to be generous. So the way I do my grilled cheese sandwich is I'm very generous with everything. So I'm generous with the butter, I'm generous with the cheese. So it's quite filling. So I wouldn't say it's the healthiest thing to have. By all means, it is not. But hey, we have soup, so see, there's a balance to it. So you want to put your cheese, and you kind of want to stuff this with cheese, like go all out. Don't be shy. And then we're going to press your cheese down. And then at this stage, you could add other items if you wanted to. For example, you could add some paprika if you wanted to, some chili powder if you wanted to, some cayenne if you wanted to, some dry herbs like oregano like I have here, or some thyme. So what I'm going to do, there you go. So you see it's very generously, so it's very generous, as you can see. Yes, so I'm going to add a bit of some cayenne pepper, which is what I mentioned I had earlier. This is actually optional. You don't have to add the cayenne pepper. I'm just adding it for a bit of a kick. So a bit. Then of course a bit of some salt. Remember that your cheese has salt, your margarine has salt, so you want to put just a little bit of salt, not too much, just very little. And of course some black pepper, because I love black pepper. And that's it for my grilled cheese sandwich. So you could add oregano in here, and you could add also your thyme leaves in here, but I'm not going to do that because I have it already going on in my soup. So we're going to go ahead and then press this down so that the cheese is all the way in the center. And then on the top bread, we're going to actually butter it, yes, some more. So like I said, it's a lot of buttering going on. We're being very generous with everything. So because we want this to be very nice and cheesy, and we're not being selfish with the filling, so we're going all out. So this is one of those recipes, or one of those sandwiches that's not selfish. You have to be very generous, very giving. Yes, so we're going to check our pan. Then I'm going to make sure my pan is not too hot. This is a tissue I'd used to wipe the oil. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put it aside. You want to make sure your pan is hot, but then not too hot. Because what we're going to do is we're going to flip my bread, and I'm going to put the side with the butter at the bottom so it can start melting. And what this does, it gives it a nice golden brown color. So I'm going to take my bread and then now flip it down. So just gently put it back on the heat and then press it down. And then we're going to add again more butter. Yes, more butter. Like instead of using margarine, you can use butter, whatever you have at home. So I'm going to place this on the top side. Remember, we've placed both, we've spread both the margarine on the inside and the outside. The inside meaning the inside of the bread, as well as the outside, because we're being very generous. And so once you've done this step, you want to make sure you cook your bread. You let the cheese melt at a very, very low heat, because if you do it at a very high temperature, then it's going to burn. You don't want that happening to your bread. It's at a very delicate spot. So again, I'm just going to add more butter. Like I mentioned, we're being very generous. So I'm going to wash my hands and then wipe them and check on my soup. And as that is going on, I'm going to get a lid to cover the bread. But I'm going to wait for that. So once I turn it to the other side, I'm going to then cover it. Okay. So you want this to just keep going on very gentle, on very low heat, as you can see, and then try not to disturb it. You just want it to continue cooking so that the bottom can start browning. So let's check on our soup. Our soup is looking good so far. So what I want to do is taste the soup. Again, remember I mentioned it's very important to keep tasting your food as you go. So just make sure you stir this. And like I said, the soup is very healthy. So if you didn't want to do this option of my grilled cheese sandwich, you can totally skip it. That is well balanced for me. As usual, I always say if you want to add a bit of pepper, some pili pili, which is chili, you can go right ahead. And if you're just coming in, I roasted my tomatoes. So what this soup does is it gives it that nice, it's got this charred flavor from far. And that's what I'm looking for. That's the roasted flavor we're looking for. Because after all, like I said, it's a roasted tomato soup. Now I mentioned you could roast your tomatoes in the oven if you have one, or you could just use the pan. I use the pan just so that you at home can find it easy for you to duplicate the recipe and do it at home in case you don't have an oven. So I'll put off the heat here. Then I'm going to transfer my soup into a blender. And then you have to be very careful when you're heating up warm liquids because you don't want it to splatter. So always be very careful. So I'm just going to add my, let me just clear up some things. I'm just going to add now my soup into the blender. So get your soup, place it into the blender, gently. Okay, and then place that aside. Then wipe the sides. And then we're going to place it into the blender to blend. But before that, we're going to check on our bread. This is going on very well. I'm going to get my spatula and turn it because I can tell. That's exactly what I was looking for. So this beautiful brown color is exactly what you're looking for. You see that? It's not overly brown. It's just the right kind of golden brown color. It's just, oh, it's so beautiful. So sometimes I have moments when I cook and you make something, you're like, oh, it looks so pretty. Yes, this is one of those moments. Okay, so again, we're going to just let that cook very, very gently. And you could always now get a lid at this stage once you turn it so that it can press down. What's that going to do? It's going to put in the steam, it's going to trap in the steam, and then it's going to allow for your cheese to melt even further, as well as the bottom to crisp up a bit more. So that's why it's essential to brown your bread on both sides, because if you skip that part, then your bread is not going to be browned because you don't have enough butter on the exterior, or margarine for that case. Okay, so we're going to move on to the soup. So for the soup, I'm just going to put it in the blender, and then make sure that your blender is well secured. Like I've mentioned, I'm blending a hot liquid. Now if you're at home, you could definitely just let your liquid cool a bit. Okay, so we're going to and this gets a bit noisy, as you've noticed. I'm just going to keep blending this until it's a consistency I want it to be. Again, if you notice, I'm putting my hand on top of the blender so that if any liquid will not come up, it will not burn me directly. And that's the reason why I'm putting my hand on top here, because the liquid, again, like I've mentioned, it's hot and you don't want to get yourself burnt in the kitchen. So that's like a tip for you guys if you're at home and you're blending hot liquid, which is not advised. I would advise you to wait a little longer until it's cool, and then now you can do the blending. But if you don't have the time or the patience, then by all means, put your hand on top, put a cloth on top so that you can avoid any splatter. Okay, so that's the splatter I was talking about, and you see that's why it's essential for you to have a cloth with you. So I'm going to now turn this and then get my soup out, open it. Yes. Now at this stage, you could actually put back your soup to blend it further. And it's very crucial for you, if you're making your soup, try and figure out if you want your soup a bit chunky or if you want your soup smooth. If you wanted your soup smooth, then get a sieve and then sieve it out. For me, I like my soup chunky, so I'm going to have my soup like this as it is. Again, I'm going to check my consistency. That way I know if I put it back in the pan, if I was to add any more seasoning. Yeah, but for me as it is, it's actually perfect. But if it wasn't, you'll put back your soup now in the pan, then reheat it, and then at that stage, start adding a bit more salt and a bit of black pepper. So we're going to go ahead and plate this. Get your kitchen paper towel, and then get your plates. We're going to check on our bread. Yes. Which I believe it's done. And you can see this, the cheese is actually melted. I hope you can see this. The cheese is nice and melted. Oh my God, it looks so lovely. It's oozing out. And that's exactly what you want from your bread. So I'm going to put this off. And then let that just continue cooking by itself in the pan. Remember, the pan is hot, so it's going to keep cooking. And then I'm going to pour out my soup in the plate gently. So we're going to pour out our soup gently. This is my tomato soup again, roasted tomato soup. Like I mentioned, if you wanted your soup a bit smoother, You could definitely sieve it. I like my soup a bit on the chunky side. I want to taste everything. I don't want it to be so fine, so that's why mine is not sieved. And then I'm going to add some cream. And this is totally optional. You don't have to do this, because so far as it is, it's totally dairy free. So if you're lactose intolerant, you can skip this step. But if you're just trying to go a healthy route, then skip this step, and of course skip the cheese bread. Yes. So I'm just going to put a dollop of my cream and then just swirl that around. So that's all we want to do with our soup. Not too much cream, just a little bit for the color. And then I'm going to get some parsley. We're going to garnish this. A bit of parsley, not too much. There you go. And look, it really looks like it's from the hotel, doesn't it? Then in the meantime, we're going to get our bread. So I'm just going to push this aside so that I can get room to slice up my cheesy bread. So I'm going to place this aside and then now slice up the bread. Ignore that. Don't worry. Disasters like that are meant to happen in the kitchen. They're bound to happen one way or another. Okay, so once you're done with your cleaning up, get your knife, get your bread, place it. It's quite hot. And then comes the good part. So now we're going to slice into our bread, and you're going to see all the nice cheesy stuff I'm talking about. So you can slice this whichever way you want to. So I'm just going to slice it diagonally. Ooh, look at that. Do you see that? Oh, this is like heaven. This is exactly what you're looking for. That nice ooey gooey texture from the bread is what you're looking for. So then we're going to place this into our soup, just like that. For those who want the bread into the soup, that's what I usually like to do. And you can place the other side on the other side or not. I'm going to leave it as one slice so that way the person has an option with whatever it is they're eating. I'm going to do a bit of cleaning up. So as you've seen, this was our roasted tomato soup. It was something very simple to make. You can do this at home. These are ingredients I've just used that you can easily get from the market, as well as the spices you can get from the supermarket. So very easy things to get. The grilled cheese sandwich, I took it a notch higher, added some bread into it, added some cheese. So again, very simple items you can do at home. And I'm just trying to get you guys to come along for the ride and cook with me. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, we're making some roasted tomato soup with some grilled cheese sandwich. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. Please follow us on Facebook under Brand Plus TV. I hope I'll be finding you guys there and we'll have an interaction. So again, thanks for joining us. Have a good evening. Bye.